Backwash, his happiness will come first, even though we are suffering. Album review, let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Backwash. She is a Canadian MC who for the last few years has been blowing my mind. I have known about her for a while, but for some reason, every time it comes around to album time with Backwash, I don't get a chance to chat about her, even though I've been a fan for some time now. I mean, I was aware of her early EPs like Black Sailor Moon. I thought it was a solid EP. It was a very edgy, sort of alternative hip-hop release, but I thought that she could do a lot more, which she proved with my first love of Backwash with Deviancy. Here, she embraced a much more gothic horrorcore sound, a very classic horrorcore sound mixed with industrial beats. That's right, if you are a fan of some classic 3 6 Mafia, or maybe some of those early Tyler, the Creator albums that haven't exactly aged well. There were nods to metal and alternative rock as well as a just gothic imagery that I loved and couldn't get enough of. It seems so corny at the end of the day, but time after time, she nails it, like she did with her God Has Nothing to Do With It, Leave Him Out of It album. I mean, I wish I reviewed this album when it came out because it's so freaking good. And if her gothic side, has not been obvious, it's only been growing with each release. I mean, get a load of last year's I Lie Buried With My Rings and My Dresses. This thing was a straight up industrial album. And yeah, it's great. Now, this latest release has been kind of heralded as the finale to this trilogy of her last 3 albums, and it's here. Came out on Bandcamp a couple of days ago, and finally got around to listening to it, taking some notes. Let's chat about this thing. I don't want to write home about the Kutali intro. It's a solid intro. It definitely does its part. I mean, it's powerful and it does set the tone for the album, but it's a pretty straightforward intro with a very sinister, very intense monologue sample. But then with VIBANDA featuring Morgan Page and Michael Goh, this album takes off and starts up right where the last album left off. It's both chaotic, industrial, noisy, but also very vulnerable and personal and revealing. It's dismal, it's dark, it's wildly intense. If you are a fan of Backwash's work, then you're going to want to hear this and hear it soon. It's also really hypnotic and hard to look away from. NYAMA featuring Pupil Slicer is even more over the top, more intense, more wild. Hellish as well. I love this. I don't know if it's a synth or a sample that just sounds like a siren going off constantly. It's pretty great. Take all of that and throw in an insanely focused verse. You're getting a very tortured, very harrowed performance from Backwash. It's intense, it's loud, but it's also very cutting, very revealing. Backwash just keeps pushing herself and pushing boundaries. MUZUNGU is pretty good too. I mean, we've graduated to harsh noise at this point, as well as a very powerful vocal snippet. Like, this just keeps getting noisier and more industrial and more harsh as this album goes on, but Backwash has this gothic swagger to her that just makes her own everything. It's just a real powerful expression from one of the more interesting voices in modern hip-hop. That being said, I am kind of ready for Backwash to take the next leap. Zigolo featuring sadistic and censored dialogue. Hate to say it, but this track is probably my least favorite track here. I mean, instrumental and production-wise, everything is right where it should be. But the underwhelming and sluggish features that we get here, not my favorite. Actually, far from it. They're probably some of the worst here. And just the lack of anything new just kind of brings me down on this album a little bit. And because of that, this track sounds like it's taking forever, and it sounds like it's pulling teeth. I have a lot of the same feelings on NFWITI. Once again, instrumentally, this is all gravy. This is right where it should be, and it sounds fine. But lyric-wise, it's one of the least captivating tracks here, and vocal-wise, it's the most obnoxious track here. That's a shame. So while I do think that I've enjoyed her last 2 works a lot more than this, she's still on a creative streak and still one of the more interesting voices out there right now. Like, MULUNGU is honestly a risk that I wish we heard more of here. Not only is this heavy and hellish, it has this freakish, ghoulish groove to it that I love. The samples are awesome, her performances are electric, this track is brilliant. I have a lot of the same feelings on JUJU. These freakish grooves are just doing so much for me. And the chilly synths, the intense performances, the great features on this track all around make it really listenable. And by the end of this track, it's one of the most dramatic and epic tracks here, shockingly so. KUMOTO, on the other hand, is freaking dark. like really dark and unbearably dense. This sounds like she ripped this instrumental out of like one of the darkest scenes in Silent Hill 3. But I love that it's just so suffocating. We get some of BACKXWASH's most self-reflective and revealing lyrics here. It is so effective. When she is on, she is so on. And MUKAZI as a finale, I was not expecting such a sunny and sample-heavy finale, but I actually think it's a pretty good risk. It's the lightest and the least dark thing here, but I actually think it's kind of necessary. And like I said, you know, the lack of anything new on this album is kind of a letdown, but like, you see it right here. It's obviously like in her sights to do a lot more, and when she does, it's great. So this is a toughie. A lot of the material here is very solid, but I wish, you know, that we just got a little something new, you know, like with each album I feel like she's taken a big leap, but I don't feel like we get that this time. I feel like this kind of picks up where the last album came off, and that's not a bad thing. It's a fine thing, and this album is absolutely fine, but like then we get like a couple of tracks here that just really underwhelm me and sound like they're pulling teeth just to listen to, and that kind of upsets me. But overall, it's BACKXWASH. She's one of the most interesting voices right now for a reason, and this is just more very solid work from her, and I'm fine with that, especially at this time of year. I'm feeling a decent 7 on this album. Let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.